Hi, good evening. Welcome along. We thought we were going to be talking transfers. Not now. 2 years to the day since Tottenham appointed Ange Postecoglou, they've sacked him. Let's go live to our reporter Michael Bridge, who's at Tottenham's training ground. Michael, very good evening. Right, he said he's a winner. He's won a trophy. And now he's gone. Is this a surprise?
I don't think so, Mike. I mean, there was murmurings before the season finished that regardless of what Spurs did in the Europa League, that Spurs were going to make a change anyway. But then in Bilbao, fans crying, families hugging each other. Spurs won a trophy, the first European trophy in 41 years, first trophy of any kind in 17 years. Many fans who didn't like what they saw last season were like, do you know what? Let's give him that third season. That third season he mentioned 2 weeks ago, this Friday, at that parade when there was over 225,000 people. But then he said the day after the pre-Brighton press conference he shouldn't have said season 3 because sometimes the main character can get killed off on box sets. And now it looks like it's very clear now that Ange Postecoglou won't see a season 3 here, and Spurs are having another change. So Ange Postecoglou, it looks like, will be departing, and Spurs are looking for another manager.
Has he been hard done by, Michael? Because he did what he said he was going to do. He won a trophy.
There's a few ways to look at this, Mike. He did the biggest mic drop, I think, in football history. I always win things in my second season. He had that question every single week he was at this press conference. And you know what? He delivered. And off the back of that, I'm convinced. In fact, I know he's going to get a very good job after this. There's already been clubs who have been very interested in Ange Postecoglou. Hard done by, many will say yes, because this club have been craving a trophy. People say Spurs don't win trophies. That's nonsense. Spurs have won plenty of trophies. The problem is, I have to go and ask my dad about that. FA Cups, league titles, many other trophies, Cup Winners' Cup, UEFA Cups, you name it. They were done in the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. They've not won enough. They've won the Carling Cup, it was called the Carling Cup back then in 2008. 17 years Spurs have waited. And of course, everyone, you talk about the Big Six, Spurs are in that Big Six. People always say they've not won enough trophies. And now they've won the Europa League. That's a massive trophy, not in terms of how big it is. It's a beautiful trophy, but it's a massive competition. And of course, that gets you Champions League football, which this club have craved year after year and out of nowhere. But at the end of the day, Mike, Spurs did finish 17th, fourth from bottom, 22 league defeats. And there are many supporters who still say, look, Ange, go with your head held high. We wonder if the football works on a Thursday to Sunday basis. And of course, next season, it's going to be 10 times harder in the Champions League. You can't rest players like they did in the early stages of the Europa League. It's going to be very hard. And clearly the board here think they might need someone with a bit more Premier League experience.
Yeah, what about the board? How tough a decision was it, given that the league form was so bad, but you've won a European trophy?
Very difficult, because at the end of the day, Spurs season tickets, they're high prices, but when you openly say, I'm going to prioritise one competition, but maybe not going to look upon the other competitions so much, probably doesn't go down too well. Every game's important, but it was a tough watch this season for Spurs in the league. But I must say, there were so many injuries. You had Archie Gray, a signing from Leeds United, a midfielder. He played centre-half for a big chunk of it. But when he did get Mickey van der Ven back, when he did get Christian Romero back, Spurs looked a much more solid unit. The only issue there is, Mike, they played in the Europa League those last few games. So they went to Frankfurt. Ange didn't play the Ange ball. He actually played with real defence. They won 1-0. Bodo Glimt away. They played with that back four. They won 2-0. Man United, wasn't a great-looking game. Who cares? They won. They won 1-0. But in terms of the league, it just wasn't a great year at all.
I'm interested in the fans, Michael. How do you think they'll react to this?
Torn. Because many of them now will be saying, Ange, thank you. Thank you for giving me the best day of my footballing life. I hugged my mum, I hugged my dad, I hugged my brother, I hugged my sister, I hugged my grand. That moment in Bilbao, you'll never forget it. There was 45,000 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This is a big football club we're talking about here. 225,000 at the parade. I think they'll be mixed. There are still going to be some fans who are not convinced the football and the style of play he plays is sustainable for Premier League, Champions League, Carabao Cup, you name it. Those fans might just say, do you know what, Ange, best of luck in wherever you go next. And as I said before, he'll get a brilliant job off the back of this. But again, it's another rebuild for Spurs, and we've got transfer shows already. The pre-season gets shorter and shorter.
Supposed to be talking transfers, and what has been really evident throughout this little run is that we haven't been speaking about Tottenham Hotspur. Do you feel that is because they were thinking, we've got to get rid of this manager and bring in someone else?
Probably not. I mean, this is a transfer window like no other. And what are we focusing on Sky Sports News? Manchester City a lot, Chelsea a lot, because they are in the Club World Cup. Plans are already underway, but we do know there's a couple of players already left. Fraser Forster, Sergio Reguilon. Heung-min Son might even leave if the right offer comes along. So there's going to be a huge change here. I don't think there's any room for panic in terms of transfers at the moment. But what we do know for certain, another rebuild is on the way here with another head coach. It's never quiet here at Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, and that rebuild and other head coach could well be Thomas Frank. He's being linked heavily with this job. Will that go down well with Spurs fans?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, look, you know, we love watching him on Sky Sports News, don't we? He's a very, very engaging guy. He's done brilliant with Brentford. You know, week after week, the likes of myself and other reporters used to ask about Ivan Toney's future. He was always very calm. He gives you good answers. You like listening to him. He was brilliant on Monday Night Football. The only doubt or worry you'd say is he doesn't have massive European experience. His first few jobs will be potentially winning a trophy in the Super Cup final against PSG. Good luck with that. And then the Champions League, if it is Thomas Frank. But talking about other coaches, that's a normal thing with big football clubs, Mike, when you potentially want to make changes. And I'm sure the discussions are well underway on that.
Michael Bridge, for the moment, thank you very much, Michael. Much more from you throughout the evening, of course. So, 2 years to the day since he was appointed, Ange Postecoglou is now gone. Our reporter, Jamie Weir, has looked back on the ups and downs of Ange's era, and he's had to pick up his ball and take it home.
And I'll tell you something, I'll leave you with this. All the best television series, Season 3 is better than Season 2.
Ultimately, we'll never know. The man who famously, boldly promised he'd win a trophy in his second season and did. The manager who delivered the club their first piece of silverware in 17 years denied an encore. The Ange era had started so promisingly. The football was breathtaking. Their confidence was at an all-time high.
Madison! His first goal at this stadium, and it certainly won't be his last.
His first 10 games saw 2 draws and 8 wins, one of them in dramatic fashion against Liverpool. He became the first man to win the Premier League Manager of the Month award 3 times in a row. This win at Palace put Spurs 5 points clear at the top. The fans were starting to think the unthinkable.
What would you say to them, the ones that are enjoying this, that are celebrating, that are daring to dream?
Yeah, let them dream, you know. That's what being a football supporter is all about. And fair to say, this lot suffered a fair bit.
And so tales were up when their old nemesis Chelsea came to town. Spurs scored early and thought they'd gone 2-0 up.
Scores! And the flag is up.
A sliding doors moment. Injuries to key players, and not 1, but 2 red cards saw Chelsea romp to a 4-1 victory. For the first time, Postecoglou's tactics were questioned. His response was defiant.
Goal, that halfway line offside trap, which has never really worked in 2023. It didn't work in 1993 either.
What's the thinking there? It's just who we are, mate. It's just who we are. It's who we're going to be till as long as I'm here.
As the injuries mounted, Spurs' form suffered. But an emphatic 4-0 win at Villa Park put them in pole position for Champions League qualification. That wasn't to be after a terrible end to the season. Just 2 wins in their last 7 games, including this North London derby defeat at home. Their penultimate game of the season against Manchester City threw up a unique and curious conundrum. with many fans hoping they'd lose to deny Arsenal the title. Ange was not best pleased.
I said the last 40 hours has revealed a fair bit to me, and that's all right. That just means I've got to go back to the drawing board with some things. Outside, inside, it's been an interesting exercise.
Nonetheless, there was a degree of optimism as this season began brightly enough. 10 wins in their first 15 games, so Spurs well placed in Europe and the league, though it was after another painful derby defeat in the midst of that when Ange delivered a line which will go down as surely one of the greatest quotes in football history.
I don't usually win things, I always win things in my second year. Nothing's changed.
And you're confident you can do that with this side? You're seeing enough?
Well, I just sort of said it now, so I don't say things unless I believe it.
Tottenham knocked City out of the League Cup and just a few weeks later beat them again, this time a 4-0 thumping at the Etihad. Things were looking up, but again injuries torpedoed their season. Van de Ven, Vicario, Romero, Udogie, Son, Kulusevski, Maddison, the list went on. They all missed substantial chunks of the season, and a humbling 6-3 defeat to Liverpool was a new low.
It's crazy, it's fun, it's 6 for Liverpool.
Not that I expect Tottenham to win the Premier League, by the way, but nobody has ever won anything playing like that.
If people want me to change my approach, it's not going to change.
As the league campaign threatened to implode, the Cups were providing some reasons to be cheerful. One of 4 victories against Manchester United this season saw them reach the League Cup semi-finals.
Are you not entertained?
We are very entertained.
Well, there you go. What do you want? Do you want a scrambling 1-0? I know the studio's probably going in a meltdown over my lack of tactics.
Against all the odds, a hugely understrength Spurs 11 even beat Liverpool in the first leg of that semi-final. But a second leg collapse at Anfield again saw some knives sharpened.
It was never in doubt before the game. It's Tottenham. When did Tottenham ever win a big game?
He baffles me with his tactics sometimes. I think he's completely lost in what he's trying to do.
There are people on TV to give opinions, and that's what they do, and that's their job. My job is not to scan the TV or the commentary on our games. My job is to manage this football club.
Defeats to Everton, at home against Leicester, and an unlikely draw against a Bournemouth side who'd completely outplayed them from start to finish saw Ange's future begin to be seriously questioned.
I'm sure if the club decided to go in a different direction, there's some outstanding candidates out there for it. So, and you know what, maybe somebody will think, Ange Postecoglou's not a bad coach, maybe we'll take a punt on him. So
things came to a head during a dismal defeat at Chelsea, the manager cupping his ear to the increasingly impatient travelling fans.
It's incredible how things get interpreted. It doesn't bother me that it's not the first time they've booed my substitutions or my decisions. That's fine, they're allowed to do that. But
by this stage, it had become clear Europe had been prioritised, while the defeats in the league kept on coming, with Spurs slumping to 17th place in the table. Bilbao beckoned, though on the eve of their biggest night in decades, Postecoglou was still biting back.
Irrespective of tomorrow, I'm not a clown. I never will be, mate. Don't worry about my future, mate. I don't think my job is done here. We're just, I really feel like we're building something.
And so a 41-year wait for European silverware, a 17-year wait for silverware of any type, was brought to an end by this man. The final day of the season brought a 22nd league defeat of the season, but it was a party atmosphere at the stadium. No one really seemed to care. After the dust settled, though, and emotions were less heightened, the decision was made. There will be no third season. The Ange era is over. Jamie Weir, Sky Sports.
It is over. Right, let's go back to our reporter Michael Bridge, who's at the Tottenham training ground. Michael, I gather Spurs have spoken. What have they said?
Yes, Mike, and it's a very interesting statement. I'll read it here. Following a review of performances and after significant reflection, the club can announce that Ange Postecoglou has been relieved of his duties. Ange joined us from Celtic in the summer of 2023. That's 2 years ago today, by the way, and oversaw a period of change on the pitch, returning us to the attacking brand of football that's been associated with this club, while writing a new chapter in our history by leading us to Europa League glory, an achievement that will live with us forever. We're extremely grateful to Ange for his commitment and contribution to his 2 years at the club. Ange will always be remembered as only the third manager in our history opportunity to deliver a European trophy alongside Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw. Now, this is the interesting part, Mike. However, the board have unanimously concluded that it's in the best interests of the club for a change to take place. Following a positive start to 23-24 season, we recorded 78 points from the last 66 Premier League games. This culminated in our worst ever Premier League finish last season. At times, there were extenuating circumstances, injuries, then a decision to prioritise our European campaign. Whilst winning the Europa League this season ranks as one of the greatest moments in the club, we cannot base our decision on emotions aligned to this triumph. It is crucial that we are able to compete on multiple fronts and believe a change of approach will give us the strongest chance for the coming season and beyond. This has been one of the toughest decisions we've had to make, and it's not a decision we have taken lightly, nor we have rushed to conclude. We have made what we believe is the right decision to give us the best chance of success going forward, not the easy decision. We have a talented young squad, and Ange has given us the great platform to build upon, and we should like to express our gratitude to him. We wish him well for the future. He will always be welcome back at our home, and news on the appointment of a new head coach will be announced in due course. And our understanding on that new head coach, Thomas Frank, is very much a leading contender.
Yeah, absolutely is, Michael. 78 points from 66 Premier League games. That's relegation form. Can Ange have any complaints, really?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the end of the Brighton game, he didn't like the fact that people were talking about his future still. He just won a trophy. And he would probably argue, if he was here now, Mike, and I'm sure we'll speak to him as the months go on, that he prioritised Europe because the way the league was, Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich were well adrift. And he would have just totally prioritised the Europa League if Spurs were in relegation problems. Of course, Manchester United were alongside Spurs in that league place as well. So, look, Ange Postecoglou, I'm sure, will have his say as well. But Spurs have a massive season next season. It's not Europa League next season. It's the Champions League. You're going up serious levels. And when Spurs started the Europa League, I think it was against Karabakh. In some group games, they made changes. Galatasaray, they made changes. You can't really make changes in the Champions League. You can't tinker with places in the Premier League. And of course, every Premier League place is financial as well. And fourth bottom probably hit Spurs a bit financially as well. So Ange Postecoglou, for sure, will move on to a fantastic job. And he'll always be loved here by the supporters for delivering that trophy. But a new era will come here at Spurs. And potentially it will be a manager in West London. And his name, Thomas Frank.
Indeed, we will see. Michael Bridge, for the moment, thank you very much, but don't go anywhere, Mike.
Indumentaria, la Kings Limited Gold Edition, solo hay 50 unidades de todos los equipos y también puede ser vuestra entrando en kingsleague.pro, así que es los datos a tener en cuenta en cuanto a indumentarias. Gran partido, Gonzalo, Gerard, el que tenemos por delante.
Ojo, ojo, estilo La Bombonera, estadio de River.
Hostia, más minutos de retraso en el inicio, ¿eh? Ya tenemos lío.
Lo llamó Edo, dibujando la parábola sobre la banda derecha, donde en el vértice del área aparece Nadir. ¡Nadir para adentro! ¡Gol! De Nadir Lua, que tiene una facilidad pasmosa. Encuentra a Pablo, qué balón para Nadir para el segundo. Se zafa de Cócera, es un golazo. ¡Es un golazo! Señoras, señores, bienvenidos al show de Nadir Lua. Pibe.
El mejor.
Vamos
haciendo espionaje, ¿eh? Vaya mierda dado, pibe. Va, ya te puedes ir a la cúpula a comer, va.
Hay que salir Cócera para entregar hacia el centro. Se la regala Coy, le puede pegar Coy para adentro.
Vaya chicha, nano.
¡Gol! De Porcinos Óscar Coy. Ah, pues sí.
Pero es que, señores,
que no te lo dije, hombre.
Tenemos, ¿cómo lo usamos? Penalti.
Penalti.
¿Será penalti?
Vamos, Cuni.
Puede meter en el partido a Cuni. Jordi para adentro, qué golazo.
Wow.
Dios. Gol.
Eso,
Vamos con Nadir Lua y con Laura Vizcaíno.
Pues sí, Nadir 2 goles, victoria y a cuartos. Enhorabuena.
Sí, sabíamos que el partido iba a ser muy importante porque veníamos de una muy mala dinámica. El equipo ha estado bien, sufríamos defensivamente y creo que hemos estado muy juntitos. Y nada, primer objetivo cumplido.
Os espera Science, rival complicado, imagino.
Sí, empatamos contra ellos y en shootout perdimos. Ha quedado segundo por algo. Nada, concentración, confianza con nosotros mismos y intentar ganar para el sábado estar en el Wizzing.
Os lo veremos mañana. Mucha suerte.